Be warned, what you're about to hear is a personal account of a night that still fills me with an unspeakable dread, a night that has left an indelible mark on my psyche. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been torn apart, allowing a malevolent presence to seep into my world, a presence that I could feel but not see, a presence that would haunt me long after the night was over. The event I'm referring to was a bout of sleep paralysis, a condition that I had heard of but never thought I'd experience firsthand. It started with a sense of unease, a feeling that something was off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. As I lay in bed, I began to feel a creeping sense of dread, a feeling that I was being watched by unseen eyes. The room around me seemed to grow darker, the shadows cast by the faint moonlight outside twisting and writhing like living things. I tried to move, to shift my position in bed, but my body felt heavy, as if it was weighed down by an invisible force. And then, I saw it, a figure standing just beyond the edge of my vision, a figure that seemed to be watching me with an unblinking gaze. My heart racing, I tried to scream, but my voice was frozen in my throat, unable to escape the prison of my paralyzed body. As the night wore on, the presence seemed to grow stronger, its malevolent energy filling the room with an unspeakable horror. I was trapped in my own body, unable to move or escape the terror that had taken hold of me. The figure, still just out of sight, seemed to be moving closer, its presence making the air feel thick and heavy, like a physical force that was pressing down on me. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the beat growing faster and more frantic as the seconds ticked by. And yet, despite the fear that was gripping me, I felt a strange sense of detachment, as if I was observing the scene from outside my body, watching myself be tormented by this unseen force. The room around me seemed to be shifting and twisting, the walls melting like wax in a furnace, the furniture distorted and elongated, like reflections in a funhouse mirror. I was lost in a world of madness, a world where the laws of reality no longer applied, and I was at the mercy of this malevolent presence. The darkness seemed to be coalescing into a tangible form, a form that was taking shape before my very eyes, a form that seemed to be made of the shadows themselves. The figure, now clearly visible, was tall and imposing, its presence filling the room with an unspeakable horror. Its face was twisted into a grotesque grimace, the eyes glowing with an otherworldly energy, like embers from a fire that had long since burned out. The figure began to move closer, its movements slow and deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. I could feel its presence washing over me, a wave of cold, dark energy that seemed to be draining the life from my body, like a vampire sucking the blood from its victim. The room around me seemed to be growing darker, the shadows deepening and twisting, like living things, until I was surrounded by an abyss of darkness, a void that seemed to have no end. And yet, despite the terror that was gripping me, I felt a strange sense of calm, a sense of detachment that seemed to be observing the scene from outside my body, like a bystander watching a car crash. The figure loomed over me, its face twisted into a grotesque grimace, the eyes burning with an otherworldly energy, like a furnace that was burning out of control. I could feel its breath on my skin, a cold, rank breath that seemed to be carrying the scent of decay and corruption, like a charnel house, where the dead were left to rot. The darkness seemed to be coalescing into a tangible form, a form that was taking shape before my very eyes, a form that seemed to be made of the shadows themselves. As the figure leaned in closer, I could feel its presence merging with mine, like two souls becoming one. The room around me seemed to be dissolving, the walls melting away, like ice in the sun, until I was left with nothing but the figure, a presence that seemed to be filling my entire world, like a black hole that was sucking in all the light. The darkness seemed to be coalescing into a tangible form, a form that was taking shape before my very eyes, a form that seemed to be made of the shadows themselves. I could feel the figure's energy coursing through my veins, a cold, dark energy that seemed to be taking control of my body, like a puppeteer manipulating a marionette. The world around me seemed to be shifting and twisting, like a funhouse mirror, reflecting back a distorted image of reality. And yet, despite the terror that was gripping me, I felt a strange sense of peace, a sense of acceptance that seemed to be embracing the darkness, like a lover embracing their beloved. As the darkness closed in around me, I felt myself being pulled into a void that seemed to have no end, like a tunnel that was stretching out into infinity. The figure was still with me, its presence guiding me through the darkness, like a ferryman guiding a soul across the river Styx. The air around me seemed to be growing colder, the temperature dropping with each passing moment, until I could see my breath misting in the air, like a whispered secret. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or escape the terror that had taken hold of me, like a rabbit frozen in the gaze of a predator. And yet, despite the fear, I felt a strange sense of fascination, a morbid curiosity that compelled me to watch the figure, to see what it would do next, like a spectator at a freak show, unable to look away from the horror that was unfolding before me. The darkness seemed to be coalescing into a tangible form, a form that was taking shape before my very eyes, a form that seemed to be made of the shadows themselves. As I emerged from the void, I found myself back in my bedroom, the figure nowhere to be seen. The room around me seemed to be quiet and still, the shadows cast by the faint moonlight outside twisting and writhing like living things. I was left with a sense of confusion and disorientation, like a traveler who had lost their way in a strange land. The experience had left me shaken, like a leaf that had been blown by a gust of wind. I was left to ponder the meaning of the encounter, to wonder if it had been a product of my own imagination or a genuine paranormal experience. The darkness seemed to be lingering, like a ghostly presence that was watching me from the shadows. I was left to wonder if I would ever be able to shake off the feeling of being watched, of being haunted by the figure that had appeared to me in my sleep paralysis. The memory of the encounter would stay with me forever, a reminder of the terror that I had experienced, like a scar that would never fully heal. As I look back on that night, I am still trying to make sense of what happened. The experience has left me with more questions than answers, like a puzzle that is still unsolved. I am still trying to understand the nature of the figure that appeared to me, to comprehend the meaning of the encounter. The experience has left me with a sense of awe and wonder, like a traveler who has seen something that they can't explain. I am still trying to come to terms with the fact that there are forces in this world that are beyond our understanding.